Hello, gamers. It's our last game of 2024. And we're back with some Gruul Prowess versus Selesnya Lifegain. Both decks have been featured on the channel previously, so if you wanted to, see more about these two decks in particular, you can do some searching up on the channel, because we do keep track of all of our gameplay stuff. We have a whole playlist, so if you ever wanted to go back and catch up on games that you might have missed, or look up other information that we've got, like we've got breakdowns of the modern meta, information regarding what's going on with new ban list stuff. We just did a new video. It came out on Saturday. It was kind of our 2024 recap video, which was kind of a all-encompassing, let's talk about content creation, let's talk about the modern meta and the ban list in a greater detail. And so that's kind of our podcast episode, because we do have a podcast. If anybody wants to check it out, NanMans Nerd Corner, anywhere you can find podcasts. But we've got some gameplay footage every single week for you, every Monday and Thursday. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup in particular. Selesnya Lifegain is one of those decks that is a combo-based creature deck. There are a couple combo-based creature decks that exist within Modern at this point in time. This is one of the ones that was just kind of saying, hey, there's so many cool combos that exist, like the Rosie and Scurry Oak combo. There's the Walking Ballista utilizing our Heliod combo. Like, there's some cool combos that exist with just like manipulating +1 counters related to your life gain stuff. So what if we just shoved it all into one deck? Now, if you're wondering about things, this deck and variations of this deck are still quite viable post-ban, because, or even just kind of got a knock up on that kind of viability list because of the release of Green Sun Zenith. So this list is running the Dryad Arbor style and going for the untapping of lands to kind of help you get there. There are some variations that are running around that have shaved off of that package, and you're going for the Green Sun Zenith. You're going to kind of go through your deck a little bit more, because you're able to sacrifice your creatures and do things with like Birthing Ritual and stuff. This list does not run the Birthing Ritual lines. The Birthing Ritual lines also get to use things like, Voice of Resurgence and things like that. But this is just like, hey, here's a green-white deck that's running all the combos that it could run. Even like most of the Selesnya Lifegain lists aren't running the Brood Scale combo, but this particular version is. So it really did just go, hey, does this fit within these two colors? Does this kind of do what I'm trying to do anyway? Let's throw it all into one deck there. So we're going to show off this for you guys here. And we've seen Gruul Prowess more recently, and we will be seeing it again. But if you're wondering about what other decks we've got coming up, we do have a couple of good ones. We've got another Prowess Phoenix deck to be featured. We've got another one of our Hollow One decks to be featured. We do also have Is It Twin? And then this Mono White Blink deck that's coming up here. So I don't know a better name to call it. It's a flicker deck, getting lots of different abilities, utilizing basically just mono white stuff. I've seen it on MTGO a couple of times. It's frustrating to fight against because it could just like beat you down quick. It has enough power that it can do that, but it also can kind of grind and do a little bit of control-y elements to it. So, but that's not featured today. We've got Gruul Prowess that is missing some land drops here. On the other side, we do have our Selesnya Lifegain, basically all the mana. So it's basically opposite ends of the spectrum. One has all mana, the other has no mana. So how are they going to be able to get there? We'll see. All the pump spells they could possibly use. So basically, if they get a land or a slick shot or something, things can get really scary really quickly. But we're going to do, looks like 4 mana here, because that looks like a Collected Company if I've ever seen one. And yep, there it is. Collected Company pretty much only sees play in this Selesnya Lifegain shell. A lot of the chord-based decks that exist, have moved away from the company. And wow, the only thing that we were able to find off of that was a Arbor Elf again. So all mana all the time. That's the thing. Like, if you're running Collected Company, you're going to be wanting to run a lot of creatures, but you have to have some non-creatures in there. You've got to have things like your collected companies. You've got to have things like Greens and Zenith now, all right, to be able to help tutor up some tools. But let's see what will be the response. Yeah, so it's just kind of a lot of like sit back and wait. But it looks like we do. Is that an Arena of Glory in hand now? Did we get a land? It is an Arena of Glory. That haste effect could be quite relevant if we're going to use that this turn. Looks like we do have a Slick Shot. So we could be trying to go for a next turn win here. Basically what it looks like a setup here. Let's plot this. Or just hard cast it. All right. Not exerted, he says. Which is fine, right? We could push for a little bit of damage here. Our opponent's, you would say, tapped out, but I guess they have access to 1 mana. You know, Path Exile has started to pop up a little bit within like Jeskai control lists or Jeskai twin lists. I've been one that have been using it in mine, but in this case, I don't think you're worried about it. Maybe there's some solitudes, but I feel like less likely in the main board, because it is just so combo heavy in like for the main deck, and then sideboard might have some other stuff. Let's see though. Hey, Basking Brood Scale does have that adaptability. We can put some counters on it and start making some friends. And ooh, Rosie, whenever a creature token is created, you get to put a +1 counter on target creature control. So this will loop here with the Basking Brood Scale. Say I'd like to create a Eldrazi by putting a +1 counter on this, and then guess what? A token's created, so we get to put another +1 counter. So we're going to do this essentially until we decide to stop. And by deciding to stop, we have to assign it to another creature. So luckily, with creating so many Eldrazi spawns, you're good to go. Now, I think I would personally like to run a what is that? Devastation, Finale of Devastation in this list. Personally, if you're going to be running the Brood Scale combo, just for that added bonus of just being like, well, now I'm generating all of this mana off of these Eldrazi's. What am I going to do with it? That just gives you a win right here, right? Because you go, okay, I'll sacrifice. He says, I'm going to make 666 tokens, and then if you sit here and you generate all this green mana, all right, well, technically the Eldrazi spawns are colorless, but if you're able to pay 2 green mana, you can just nuke somebody, give everything trample, and you know, do that Finale of Devastation adventures. Because yeah, how much is it? Let's see. Finale of Devastation is X and double green. And then if X is 10 or more creatures you control get +X and gain haste until the end of turn. So like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's Finale of Devastation seems awesome for this Selesnya Lifegain. Like, even if it's just a one of, right? I know we're doing so much already, but just like, yeah, I don't know. Find a combo piece or win in this situation here. Manamorphose, though, is a problem because that's going to generate, looks like we're going to do a red and green. We do need to get access to green so we can be able to utilize things like Scale Up and things like that. Well, fetch. It's nice. I don't have to worry about tracking the life totals this time around. And we did get new dice that we're going to start using to help us do some more indication, too, of, oh, here's green mana, here's red mana, here's blue mana. So that'll be something new in the new year to be able to show off. But there's a Scale Up. So, hey, this is an 8-powered creature. What if I also give it Double Strike? What do you have to say for that? There's 16 damage. You cool with that? Oh, wait, you're at 16? All right. Oh, sorry. I guess it's more than that because it's 8, 9, 10, 20 damage. right? Because it gets the extra +2. So 10 power with double strike. So, A, I would like to gain 3, go to 19, and then take 20 and die. Dang, what a... That's the thing about this Gruul Prowess. Every time we see it on camera, every time we see it, it's like... It keeps making me go, I need to just pick up my assault strobes. I need to just do it. I need to sit here and order them. I keep forgetting every time I'm like, oh, maybe I'll pick up these cards or do this. And then the assault strobes just slip my mind until I see this deck on camera and go, I have everything else for this deck. Why have I not just, splurged and bought these? I mean, how much is assault strobe right now? Let's see. Let's do some searching. Assault strobe is, if you guys guess under $1, you were correct. It is 50 cents. And that's on TCG Player. Oh, hey, let's start with a ley line. Not a ley line that you often see, but whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets one creature, you get to copy that spell. Guy's Soul is going to come out, which, allowing us to gain some life, allowing us to have an energy sink. We're not going to be as swarmy as like the Boros energy decks, but having extra ways to gain life is really important here. And if we can get a life gain combo going, then we can put a stop to that like turn 3 or turn 4 out of nowhere, take 20 damage death moment like that. So... All right, we'll surveil this land to the graveyard. Don't need it. That also gives us information that our opponent at least has 2 lands in hand, or probably close to it. I love those Galaxy foil lands there. Dampening Sphere is going to be really nice. That's a nice sideboard tech to kind of bring in. We've talked about specific sideboard cards at your LGS. This is one of those that a lot of players have started to utilize because... we have players that are running, or they used to be running a lot of like Tron-based decks. There are amulets. There's lands that are producing more colors, but there's also decks like the Prowess list that are running around that are casting multiple spells in a turn. And so being able to kind of slow people down and tax them a little bit more is what you're looking for if your goal is to try to assemble a combo and just gain infinite life, where it doesn't cost you a lot of spells to do. It's just creatures on board to allow you to be able to get there. So we'll see. Fetch in basic here, most likely. And if you haven't picked up fetch lands, you should. They're at least with the most recent printing, they've got like the old border. They've got the etched versions of it. Like there's relatively cheap that you can be able to at least get a playset or two of different fetch lands to kind of get yourselves into Modern, or diversify your Modern portfolio, if you will, your Modern collection, to allow you to potentially build multiple decks, because this is the time to be doing it. Like, the meta is so diverse right now that you can get away with running something like this Selesnya Lifegain and be like, yep, this is where we're at. We're going to rock this style, and especially with Green Sun Zenith coming. So, like, being able to get access to, like, Windswept Heath for cheap or things like that, it's definitely worth it. But, hey, here's a Heliod. It is an enchantment. Whenever we gain life, we got to put a +1 counter on something, and then we can pay 2 and give a creature a lifelink until the end of turn. Does become very relevant with something like a Walking Ballista win. But we'll do a little pokesy here and hope that we don't die this turn. We're at 17. Last time our opponent was able to do 16 to us. Now, the taxing of Dampening Sphere does potentially give us a little bit of a opportunity to slow us down, right? Every spell after your first one essentially costs 1 more, right? If I've cost 1 spell, it costs no extra. But my second spell costs 1 more. My third spell costs 2 more, so on and so forth, or some variation of that taxing effects that exist. There is a lightning bolt here. Yeah, if next turn, if our opponent has a Walking Ballista, if they have a Walking Ballista and a land, they win, because they can play a Walking Ballista for 1 mana, gain a life, put a +1 counter on it. Now, that's risky, assuming that there's no burn spells to kill it off. You could just pay the 2 and make it have an extra counter on it. Let's see. Combat, we're going to pay 2 life and do this mutagenic growth, copy it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power right now. Now, we do get an extra copy of it. It does not do the extra prowess stuff, but still 7 power there. 7. Do we have an assault strobe? Because if we have an assault strobe... Oh, no, we're in combat already. Assault strobe is sorcery. Let's see. 7, 8, 9. Wow. Yeah, what guide? Are we hitting guide here? I feel like guide is safer. We could go for face here. I mean, if we go for face, we put our opponent to 5 life. But if they have a thing to trigger off the Guide of Souls, it's going to be more of a problem. Yeah, so I like killing the guide here. It gives you a little bit more flexibility on or at least a little bit more of a safety net on what the next turn, if they were relying on that Guide of Soul life gain to help them. But yeah, so that'll be 9 total damage. And again, that's crazy. Imagine if that dampening sphere was not there. I think our life gain player would have died. There's a gut shot in hand. Like, you could have been starting to really push for extra damage there. Oh, and a Manamorphose? Yeah, they were dead. They were dead without that dampening sphere. You go Manamorphose, make double red or a red and a green, pay the 2 life off of mutagenic, because every spell is going to give +2 to the slick shot. Drawing cards, we still get the bolt that we could have aimed at face. Like, yeah, that was pretty scary. All right, let's see. Utopia Sprawl, nothing too crazy. Gives us 2 mana. Tapping for 2 for Guide of Souls. So we're basically tapping out to do this, because we do have to pay the extra, right? That's why you see the tap the Utopia Sprawl for 2 to be able to cast it. Interesting. So now we got to hope our opponent doesn't kill us here. We're at 8. Fetching for the basic mountain. Constellation Mountain versus the planetary galaxy foil forest. Both players understood the assignment when it came to their basics. So how's everybody been enjoying the modern meta so far? Have you guys been playing any online? Have you just been playing at your LGS? Our LGS adventures are Tuesdays, and it hasn't worked out for the holidays for us to be able to go and play more since basically the unbanning. So I've been playing some online and been really enjoying playing out the twin decks online. I am looking to test out a couple of other decks, like some Mox Opal decks, some Green Sun Zenith decks. So probably Mox Opal decks will be the next ones that I'll be testing. Maybe we'll do some footage for you guys on Saturdays for the MTGO content. But let's see. Going for damage. Let's see. What do we got here? Gut Shot. Paying the extra mana to do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. That's a lot of damage, but not enough to kill your opponent. Ah, okay. So I need to draw into something a little different than the off that Manamorphose to try to finish you off. Now, can the Selesnya Lifegain players stabilize here? They'll gain some life off of, like, worst case, they attack with a Soul Guide and gain some life. Right? We can make that happen. Scurry Oaks is a problem. So whenever one or more counters are put on Scurry Oak, you get to create a squirrel. So Scurry Oak will enter. We gain a life. Heliod will put a +1 counter on Scurry Oak, creating a squirrel, causing Guide of Souls to trigger, gaining a life, putting a +1 counter on Scurry Oaks. and do this until we have 1 million life. Or something along those lines. Our opponent's tapped out. We're okay. And, yeah, we kind of just are demonstrating going through this loop. Hey, I would like to gain 666,000 million trillion. I don't know where they decided to stop. They'll pick a number or something and probably put it on. And he'll have one to just kind of put a stop to that. And that'll be it. We'll scoop up there, knowing that it's, yeah, we were so close. Like, the dampening sphere really making a big difference there. And that's kind of the power of having the right sideboard tech to really position yourself to deal with what your opponent has going on and fight against the right kind of deck. So we talked about this before, but, you know, adapting your deck. Yes, you see a list online. You see a list doing well on MTGO, but if you're not fighting those specific decks all the time, you want to make sure your sideboard is positioned to fight the decks that you're going to fight. You know, if you're going to bigger tournaments, yes, you might have to do some changing and adapting to your sideboard, but like if you're just like every week I go to my LGS and there's a bunch of Mox Opal decks running around, then run a lot more Artifact Hate. Hate those decks out. All right, don't just sit here and put yourself at a disadvantage because this is what the deck tells you to run online. Change your list to fit where you're playing. All right, looks like a mulligan for our Gruul Prowess player. Things are tied up 1-1, so thanks for everyone that's still with us, still hanging out. We appreciate your support as we continue to bring you all awesome Modern coverage. And we'll drop down to 19 here as we fetch Surveil. Yeah, there's the Surveil. Hey, I still need to pick up more Surveil lands. Add it to my list. Somebody make a list for me and say, Nan, pick up more Assault Strobes and more Surveil lands because I need them. Every time I go to order cards, I'm like, what do I need this time? Maybe this crazy, obscure card for this commander deck. Maybe I need these cards for this weird modern deck that I'm going to build. And then I forget about the actual like decks that I should be playing or should be trying to build instead of like this weird tier 3 against the odds style deck. I used to play a lot of against the odd decks that I would brew up for Modern just for the fun of it because, you know, Modern's so much fun to do that with. But since we've brought coverage back, we've been spending a lot more time playing more meta-based decks. You guys saw a lot of the Jeskai control that I was running. We'll be playing some Twin for a while, probably until we decide to pull the trigger and buy some Green Sun Zenith and play some Green Sun decks. I don't think we're gonna play Mox Opal decks for a while. It hurts because like playing an Urza Thopter combo deck is really appealing. So maybe that'll be the first one we do online and brew something up online and do some testing and see how that works. You know, you guys know that I am a sucker for a Lantern control deck. So maybe that'll be another thing. Like I have my Lantern control deck built. It's fine. It could be a little bit faster, more optimal with Mox Opals, but not that big a deal without it. Basking Brood scale to start things out. And let's see. Do we got a Bolt or something to answer this? Not having any turn 2 plays is interesting. Turn 1 or 2 plays for a Gruul Prowess player. Which we know that they're like all in. You know, their whole goal is just resolve our lovely little bird wizard and start flinging spells. But let's see. Yeah, get him. Lightning Bolt. Get that combo piece out of here. All right. So both players just sort of doing the setup phase here, not really letting anything stick around, not really putting much board presence out there at the moment. Not saying that there won't be soon, but for now. Yeah, so look, you see this debate here. It looked like there was a Manamorphose in hand, and that could have been why we were trying to decide. Yeah, let's do. Okay, so we're digging red and a green here. Maybe we're looking for a creature, and that's part of the problem. Hell, that's not bad. The questing druid. We don't use the mana for it. So, I don't know. Is the debate... I guess it's like, why not exile the top 2 cards with questing druid? Because you have until your next turn, right? Until your next end step, you can play those cards. Yeah, okay. So, like, you have... Utilize your mana if you're going to cast the Manamorphose. You get more information about what's coming instead of just kind of draw, like, pay 2 to draw a card is not, doesn't feel good in a world of, you know, preordains and a world of considers. If I'm spending 2 mana to draw a card, I'm feeling bad. All right, surveil land. Do we care? Whatever it is a potential, though. Yeah, lots of thinking on this one here. So could be that it is a combo-y piece, not currently relevant to what we have in hand, but could be something that pays off later on. And that would be why we're in the tank so long for that one. Or it's just a deleted halfling that's like, do we care more about ramp? All right, fetching. Let's get ourselves another little shock land here. Overgrown. Not overgrown. That's the black-green one. Stomping Grounds. That's the name we're looking for. I'm like, what the heck's the name of these lands? To go deep into my brain for that one. Can you tell I'm not normally a red-green player? You're like, give me those blue, give me those black stuff, give me some green. Like, I'm a Sultai player, 100%. Oh, Arena of Glory is nice. Do we got any good haste effects that matter here? Not really. But again, we have that questing druid, so it's like, is it time to just jam it out and just go on an adventure? Okay, Curd Ape is not bad. And a little bit of a body. And we'll just get that on out of here. March of the Otherworldly Light. Exiling this creature. Works out really well for 1 drop, so just say goodbye to. All right, now we're looking for, okay, Heliod. Solid. So we're getting ourselves set up here. Again, building up for a combo. Okay, end step here. Let's do some questing druid. Exile top 2 cards of your library until your next end step. You may play those cards. And 2 lands off of that is not that great, but at least we can kind of just get those out the way. Oh! Orange Chant. Hey, that's cute that you have those lands over there. Guess that's all you're doing this turn. So I guess we just grab our fetch land here. I don't know if we're running any more surveillance. I would assume we're probably not at this point, but yeah, that's going to remain exiled, and then we pass. But at least we have access to the questing druid now. So whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, you put a +1 counter on it. So with the deck has a decent number of red spells when we're thinking about it. So getting a questing druid out at least presents a threat and allows us to kind of utilize all this mana that we're building up here. But it looks like it's kind of the opposite of game 1 here. Our prowess player has so much mana. Our Lifegain player has not enough mana, which is the opposite of what we saw in game number 1 here. Okay, so we get another stomping ground here. Okay, so you could do a burst attack here, exert our arena Well, yeah, play the questing druid. We'd still have to tap something else though. So you essentially are doing 3 mana to give our questing druid haste. I don't know if that's as important and relevant. Oh, here's a haste effect. All right, so I like the idea of putting the questing druid out, but we could be going for a really big. Let's try to, we've seen it possible. Yeah. All right, scale up the 16 damage here. Let's see. That's 8. Do we have an assault strobe too? There's the assault strobe. So that is 10 total. Let's do it to it. No flyers. Move to combat. Here is our 10 double strike and another March of the Otherworldly Light. So not Path to Exile, but we do have exile type effects that exist. And these are pretty nice because you get to get rid of a lot of stuff, right? Artifacts, creatures, enchantments. So that is pretty useful. Put a stop to it. Oh, I was like, do we have any protection? No protection here. There are a couple of the Gruul Prowess lists that do get access to some like protection spells, particularly like Blossoming Defense. Not very many. Usually, though, it's like 2, maybe 3 maximum. Some of the lists are running like Snakeskin Veil. Usually, that's like a sideboard thing. So I don't know. I think it's tough. We went all in and hoping our opponent didn't have a removal spell. They did. So we got there. But we still have ways to try to assemble, assuming our opponent doesn't just like combo and win here. Collected Company into a Basking Brood Scale and a Rosy Cotton of Southland. So whenever we create a token, you got to put a +1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosy. So here's how it's going to work. We've got our first trigger to make a... Oh, we're going to zap Rosy. We're going to put a stop to that. No combos allowed here. There's the Lava Dart. So we get only 1 trigger here for 1 Eldrazi spawn. But Basking Brood Scale is sitting there with an extra counter. There, could be ways to be able to reassemble things, but putting a stop to that, knowing that our opponent is now hellbent, is going to be tough. So Gruul Prowess player is looking. They have a questing druid again. So you have 2, right? You cast your 1 from exile. Boom, boom, boom. There it is. Now we have the option to seek the beast, which we will be doing on our opponent's turn here. Oh, 3 mana. Walking Ballista. I'm sorry, 4 mana for Walking Ballista. Oh, no. Okay, so he says, wait, just kidding. Tapping mana correctly. Popping this, tapping this, because we still need 2 mana. We're going to pay this 2 mana to give this lifelink. Now, I'm going to remove a counter from Walking Ballista. I will shoot you for 1. Lifelink trigger. I got to put a +1 counter on the Walking Ballista. Let's seek the beast. What do we get? Oh! That is pretty good. Okay, so trigger Questing Druid's going to get a +1 counter. Lava Spike. We're going to... Lava Dart. Shoot the Walking Ballista. Sacrifice this mountain. Shoot the Walking Ballista. Okay, so there was basically this window. He says he's got 2 counters on it. I would like to remove one of them to shoot you. In response, yeah, and they go, oh, I'm going to trade for this. They were just making sure, but the Questing Druid doesn't actually die here. Well, let's see. Shoot it for 1. No, it still wouldn't die because the stuff is on the stack. Right? I guess, hold on. My brain's gotta work. All right, we got these things on the stack. I'm trying to remove this counter to put this, shoot this questing druid, and we go. I respond with this red spell, putting a +1 counter on questing druid. So questing druid would still live. But that's okay. That's why we do these videos, to learn, to sit here and try to line things up. And if there are mistakes, we learn from the mistakes, so we don't get hit with the same mistakes again. All right, so if we're going to do some gut shotting and doing stuff like this here, again, we should be doing our questing druid. Because look at this. Boom, we're going to be fling. That's 2 extra red spells with 2 extra counters here. 3. Where's the questing druid? Get the questing druid out. Oh, now he's here. Okay. So just out of order sequencing, it's fine. We know it now as the audience members, and looking back with perfect information. Sometimes you might sequence things out of order. Oh, no. Hey, let's top deck a Spike Feeder. So, I'm going to remove a counter from Spike Feeder and gain 2 life. Trigger, Heliod, will allow me to put a +1 counter on target creature. I'll put it back in the Spike Feeder. I will then demonstrate this loop where I will gain 1,000,000 life. Let's see, where's he stopping? Nice. He says, I'll just go up to here. I could do more if I need to, but this should be fine. All right, so assuming this questing druid would have 3 counters on it, assuming there would still be another questing druid, I don't think it actually makes an impact or difference in the results of the game as of right now. I guess the other questing druid would be what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be a 6/6, but when you can gain infinite life, a 6/6 swinging at you doesn't really matter. Guide of Souls, more life gain adventures. Move into combat. Let's bring this little druid. Give it life link. Again, this combat would not be able to happen because there would be the druids big enough to do some blockies. Yeah, that's the other thing, is because we can do this combo at instant speed, it kind of puts a stop to it. But I love Spike Feeder. Spike Feeder was part of an old school combo with Archangel of Thune and stuff like that. For any modern players that used to play the chord-based decks back in the day, Kiki chords and stuff like that, that was one of the stuff that I would run in there. I love that Archangel of Thune combo. Same thing, just much more expensive and much harder to to demonstrate this loop. Yeah, so I don't believe our Gruul Prowess player has that. There was a discussion going of like, hey, you got a skull crack, you just kind of blow me out in response, but there is no skull crack. There's no way to stop it. But yeah, so the extra questing druid, the extra +1 counters that would be on both questing druids wouldn't actually have an impact to the game there. But I hope you guys enjoyed that one, at least getting to see a little bit of a different deck. Of course, the Lifegain deck will have a little bit more legs with some Green Sun Zenith. We didn't see any of that this time, but maybe we will in the future. But thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everybody. Hope you guys have had a great 2024. We'll see you back here in 2025 on Thursday with some more modern action. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you all next game.